Mic is off. Yeah, that's what it looks like, but it's not. Is it doing its thing now? Hey, it looks like it's working now. Okay. Okay. That's great. So that is it. That's the I think we're good. Sound. Okay, great. Okay. I came back from taking my meds and there were so many people that were posting and I was overwhelmed in a very good way. So, yeah, big curved monitor. Oh, I thought you were talking about my. I was like, how can you see that? No, I'm glad that it's there. Um, yeah, 19,600 subs. Yeah, it's down. It's down. It was from 2,100, so it is down. Um, so let's see. Like catching the live streams, you get to interact. Good. I'm glad. That's what this is for. I had a pretty strong feeling that um, people would just want to talk, and I know that's kind of what people were doing with the live streams that we did. They liked having that to talk and feel like they weren't as alone. Because some people, they are home, they're working from home, and it can get kind of isolating that way. So, yeah. Double time make Lee sound like a Smurf. I don't know. Does it? The Smurfs were all mostly dudes, weren't they? Let's see. So, I don't want to lie. There's a slice of orange. It's a slice of lemon stuck in my hair. So what have you been up to? How's life treating you? I have been having migraines almost every day since the start of December, and I was thinking don't do the live stream, but then I thought no, I feel like I really should, so we're doing it. We might turn off the light. I also have my backup glasses. That's kind of it. I've just been focusing a lot on work, and it's frustrating because there's a lot of videos that I have plans for, and I feel like I can't do it. And there was a video that I recorded that I was going to post, but the sound didn't capture. So it was a one-time video. I was testing out. I guess we can kind of watch it maybe. Let's see if that's possible. Let's see. I can just voice over. Let's see what we got. Let me actually send an invite to somebody who usually checks a messenger. They're one of the people. Let's see. Yeah, jump on in. Is it here? Yeah. All right. Was this it? I think it was. So let's see if I can share because there's no sound, so I can maybe share the window. No? I guess not. That's okay. That's all right. Basically, there was these really, it was fried chicken, but they were flavored like strawberry, mango, and banana. There's a few acceptable fruits to make it. Lemon is one. Pineapple, mango, lime chicken is good. Orange chicken, that's good. But strawberry, mango, banana, and so I thought either this is very gimmicky because there was this fried chicken show, like they're competing to make new tastes in fried chicken. It's like a show on Netflix. So there was that, and I thought, all right, maybe it's just maybe it's just a gimmick to get people interested, or it's really good, and maybe there's subtle flavors, and they weren't. They were so bad. The strawberry one was like breakfast cereal, like children's sugary breakfast cereal. Mango was awful. It left a really bad taste in my mouth, and banana, it was the least flavored of them, so therefore it was the most tolerable, but otherwise it was quite bad. And I have food, like I have all these videos that I have I have food that I have like lined up that I want to eat on camera. And I'm thinking maybe when I am able to, I should just do it in one video, because who knows when I'm going to feel okay enough to do it again. I didn't do my makeup or anything today. I just tried to look a little festive. We got, spring is coming. So, but that's about it. I've just been, just been trying to keep moving forward. That's basically it. Yeah. I don't know where you got orange from. That's okay, Ratsa. You may or may not have a 3D printer to print fun stuff for Raz. That's a great use of a 3D printer, I think. I'm sorry to hear that your mom's fever is back, Summer. That sucks. Yeah, don't plagiarize myself. I know. Speaking of, I did very well on my final paper for one of my courses. It was the one about cults, and I want to thank anybody that had helped me out with that, because I did do some interviews. So 100%, that was good, which was good because it was quite long. It was longer than it should have been, and I thought that's going to be really embarrassing if I made it so long, and it was awful. So I'm really glad that it was all right. I had to find some articles and stuff that were not easily findable. You think that you have all this access to it as a college student. Some of them are just old, so I had to go hunt these down. These old research studies from the 80s about cults in like the late 70s. When the cult explosion kind of happened in the U.S. and it was good. I really wanted to do the topic justice, and that's what took so long. But I made this side account or side Google Drive where all of that went. I put a copy of the book because I didn't expect the professor to buy the book to check my sources. So I put a copy of the book in there, and I was like, here you go, please check my sources. Like, I'm very, very proud of how this came out, and I think that it makes a good argument. And it was fun compiling this, and I want it all available to you. I don't want you to think that I just made this long to try to annoy you, or misguided attempt to impress you, or to think that, oh, well, it's long, I'm not going to grade it, I'll just give the student a fair grade or whatever. And so I'm like, here's all the proof. Like, I want you to go through it if you have time. So it was good, and I wanted to do a talk about that on a video as well. So but if anybody has questions about it, I was looking at cults through the, I guess, not through the lens of, with respect to operant conditioning and social conformity theory. So if you guys have questions about that, then you can ask. Let's see. You're tearing me apart, George. Oh, I can't read it for Alan. Alan used to send me those. Was it you that used to send me those weird super chats? That made me read them. Let's see. Of course it's oh, okay, I read it again. I nearly killed both of us trying to get her to a nearby city for monoclonal antibodies. Yikes. Please, I hope you guys are safe. It just sounds like just a crappy situation. Yeah, orange chicken is fantastic. It really is. Slap some rat photos and video on the Discord. Oh, good. Everyone should go check those out. God's Not Dead portrays atheists in the same way Passion of the Christ portrays Jews. I don't think Jews... Can somebody check? Is Jews... Is that word, like, flagged? Can you write that down? Just Jews. Alan was just practicing his Lee. Oh, if you're going to spell it, you got to spell it right. Got COVID and survived, still alive, just. Well, I'm glad you're still alive. Do you happen to have any of the long COVID symptoms? I'm curious. You need to find a rat cult. You know, I thought, because I want to get, you know, like a PhD and stuff, so you got to submit some, like, research, you know. I thought, what if I started a cult? What do you guys think? And then, you know, of course you can't. It's very unethical, but I was just like, what if I use what I've learned from psychology and use my focus on social psychology? What if I use that to start a cult and prove how to do it and then how to bring it down and see if we can learn how to deprogram. Okay, good. So Jews does work. All right. Watched a recent documentary about how international fast food brands operate in countries outside of the USA and Europe. So this KFC, McDonald's, Domino's. The takeaway is that, and then I probably should have waited because John is still writing. I heard of YouTube banning someone for using the word Shrek. Shrek. That's weird. Shrek is not offensive. Maybe we should make it offensive. Somebody types in Shrek. Yeah. How to cult YouTube live stream Winley. Actually, let's see. Oh, the salt, sugar, fat levels 3 to 6 times higher in India, etc. Yeah, they do have, because they have different laws in different countries. So what they can get away with, you know, salt and sugar and fat are really inexpensive fillers to add more palatability. Of course, there's that, you know, we can think of a graph sort of. And there's that level where it's like perfection. And then once you add more salt, of course, it's terrible. But, you know, people have different salt expectations from food, I guess we can say, just culturally. And they can be habituated, you know, you can get used to them. So, for example, I went back to the US and a lot of the food is quite salty. And so I remember I tasted these. I don't know why my mom bought these pre-cooked like mashed potatoes from Costco. I don't know why she would do that. I've never known her to do that, but she did. I guess they must have been on sale or interesting, whatever. And I tasted them and I coughed. I'm like, Mom, how much salt did you put in this? And she said, none. But it's just that expectation was so different. Yeah, people get really used to those tastes, and so if you introduce something from another country, a company from another country, it's not something that you can just do so lightly. You have to know what are people expecting, how salty do they expect the food, how spicy do they expect the food, and so on. Let's see. Green face is, so if I did green face, that would be considered against Shrek and his people. It was Omicron, so my family and I got over it. Okay, that's good. That's good. Long COVID, please describe. Hair is falling out, weak, exhausted, catch everything. Oh, well, that's different, but it does seem that some of these are actually triggering chronic fatigue syndrome. And I forget it. They changed the word fibromyalgia. They changed it to something else, but I just know it's ME. So it is causing that in some people. And I found out why, because I was curious and I had all these like research journals to read, and I found out why stuff like that happens. It's a type of memory that happens, and how your nerves overreact as well. And so it seems like from an evolutionary standpoint, and I'll make a video on it again. It's one of the videos I want to do, but it seems that from an evolutionary standpoint, the idea of you feeling lingering pain even after you've been healed, it dissuades you from doing a thing again. So if you jumped off, your friends are jumping just for fun into a river and you don't check the depth or something, so you jump in and you break your leg and you don't die, you manage to live, because this is hundreds of thousands of years ago, that lingering pain is going to discourage you from doing something like that in the future. So it seems that it's caused by that. The other thing is another reason it could happen is if you damage the nerves. So let's say that like I damage the nerves here, then the other nerves get overly sensitive. So that way, you know, if I can't feel anything here, then I need these other nerves to be very aware of what's going on so they can try to prevent injury to this area, for example. And so that's what it seems that chronic pain. It's an evolutionary, not benefit. This is like the worst X-Men power. It's the worst mutation, but it seems like it's that. But from what I read, there were some. It seems that COVID can trigger that in people that are prone to it. But long SARS, long COVID, this was observed with SARS-CoV-1, and basically you still have all the symptoms. You just don't have the virus, so you're not sick, but you have a hard time breathing. They did this thing called, it was a 6MW, 6-minute walk, and they were testing it, and people needed to take a break. So even months after, these are people that were otherwise healthy and caught the virus. Some of them were teenagers, for example, so they were young, healthy people, and they ended up with this condition. For some cases, it has lasted since SARS, that SARS outbreak in 2003. So there are people that still have that long COVID. They still hurt. They still feel really achy. They have a hard time breathing. So that's long COVID. That's what that is. But if you're feeling just weak and fatigued and stuff, it may have worsened chronic fatigue syndrome. Yeah. So that's really the big fear of it, you know. I tell my students that it's not like you guys are gonna die. Likely, you could, but you're not in that group, you know. But what is likely is, you know, more likely is long SARS, long COVID, and that sucks. You could pass it to somebody who can get it. That sucks, and it gives it just more chances to mutate to be something worse, which that sucks too. So let's see. The live chat is the place to be. Good. I'm glad. I guess it's top chat is always the one that's the default. So I'll switch it to live chat. Different countries have different palates. Eating the same chocolate bar, in Canada and the U.S. Will sometimes rate differently. Oh yes, definitely. I remember the Aero bar, the one that's got all those holes in it to create that crumbly kind of texture. That doesn't go well in the U.S. because people are like, well, how come this candy's full of air? I'm not paying for air. So, and mint doesn't go over well. However, there's been a chocolate mint push. There has been, and I didn't try it, but there was mint chocolate soju, and I just didn't. I thought that was a migraine waiting to happen. But there's been a mint chocolate push, which is unusual because Koreans don't usually eat mint. They're not a big fan. And if you try to give it to them, some of them relate it to toothpaste. That's like the most mint that most of them eat. But over time, you know, as this is becoming more of a flavor for candy, some of them are, you know, getting used to it. I tried giving out peppermint lollipops or chocolates, and you know, some of the students took the peppermint lollipops. So let's see. I was positive for COVID last Sunday. I've quarantined all week. I assume it's Omicron. I've had a cough, sore throat, never lost your taste. Triple vax, thankfully. That is good, yeah. If I request a Google, Thingiverse Sputnik Rat House is what a coworker is printing for me. Well, let's look at it. I wasn't gonna open this up, but let's look at this. This sounds exciting. Right? Doesn't that sound exciting? Let's check it out. And window capture. I can't edit. There we go. Okay. There we go. That's right. Well, it's not going to be up here for long. Well, this is pretty cool. Check it out. That's super cute. That's great. It's a good time. That's probably not it. But yeah, this is pretty cool. And that does seem like something you could print out. I saw this and I'm like, dang, that might be, I thought it was a lot bigger. I thought this was on the floor, like dog sized. But these are pretty cool. I think that your rat's really gonna like them. How do we, there we go. Do they have colors that they can print? Or are you just gonna get it like a single color? For Zeneca ad Astra. I mean, I noticed you guys are typing stuff kind of like, are people getting flagged for doing that? Like typing stuff like AstraZeneca? Is that gonna get stuff flagged? I've already had a diagnosis for ME and CFIDs. Everything is worse, yeah. So yeah, this is the worst X-Men power in the world. And it sucks. But I would mention that and maybe ask the doctor about that. I'll remind me to find you that study that I was talking about. I probably had Omicron. I was still out for like 3 days. Never worried about it. No trouble breathing or any bad stuff. That's good. I'm not anti-vax. I caught COVID early in the cycle. Just crossed my fingers and had faith in my natural immunity. I did lose my taste. And do be careful about that. I hope you're still at least doing, proper social distancing and stuff, because the students and I, we had to talk about the idea that COVID might be here forever, right? And a couple of things that we had mentioned, that it was different from the flu, like the influenza viruses, for some key reasons. First of all, it seems pretty hardy, so we can still get it in the summer and such. Usually influenza is more like a winter virus, as you guys know. The other thing is that you tend to lose immunity to it. So maybe you got lucky and you happen to still be immune to it. But if you caught COVID, what are they calling the first one? Alpha? If you caught that, you're not immune to the other variants. Just like if I catch influenza A, I'm not immune to influenza B or influenza C. So that's another thing too. That's one of the other reasons that there's those boosters. Those boosters are supposed to help against the variants. And the other reason for the boosters is that it seems that for most people, we tend to lose our immunity, right? So that's kind of what I was mentioning too. And then the third thing is the long COVID. So usually with the influenza, if you don't die, you're better. With long COVID, if you don't die, you can still get long COVID. There's like a 33% chance with SARS. I don't know with SARS-2, but with SARS-1, there was like a 33% chance of it. If you're hospitalized, you have over a 66% chance of developing anxiety and PTSD, because you could almost die, which is why you're in the hospital. So it's, yeah, it's, I'm glad that you're okay. But please understand that catching and getting over one type of COVID will not protect you against the other types. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, how many of you have had COVID? I'm just realizing I still haven't had it. We still have the mask protocol and stuff. We did change. We were doing that QR code tracking. If you guys weren't familiar with that, basically when you went somewhere, you had to scan a QR code. And so if somebody was in that area at the same time you are, and then that person gets COVID, then everyone who was in the same area at the same time would get a notification like, this person was positive, you should go get tested. They stopped because it wasn't slowing anything down other than people's ability to work and move, so it wasn't really doing any help. Omicron's just spreading really quickly. I also showed the students, speaking of the spread, why we keep getting spikes. So we would get these, I guess I could show you guys what I'm talking about real quick. So what am I looking at? I gotta move all my I got all these drinks here. You guys know me and my millions of drinks. Korea COVID cases. Let's see. Let me make this small because this thing tries to do a thing. Okay, so we had noticed that there was just these really big jumps suddenly, right? Oh, that's a window's gone. There it is. Cool. Actually, let me just make this really big so everybody can see it. And if you're listening, don't worry, I'll talk about it. So what we have here is you can see there's this really big jump from the 20th to the 21st, or 21st to the 22nd, sorry. And it goes from like 99,550 new cases up to almost double, right? Over 171,000. And so that's on a Tuesday when those numbers came in. And then you can see it kind of just kind of goes up and down again. And again here. So this is from the 14th of February, Monday, Tuesday, and again. And even these little things here from 7th to 8th February. 8th February was a Tuesday, and it kind of peters out. So we were talking about, why does this happen? And the students were pretty good at figuring it out. Do you guys want to figure it out? But the students have listened to me for way too long, so it's good to watch them like learn to analyze stuff and learn to ask these questions, like, why are we getting this spike, right? Why would we get a spike suddenly on a Tuesday if it was, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, suddenly Tuesday, there's so many more cases? Where would this come from? Why is it, when does this happen? Why does this happen on Tuesday? You seem to read so much about these things. I do, and I think audiobooks and other YouTubers that are putting stuff up, because that lets me listen, because reading it on a screen is really difficult. Have you watched Red Letter Media? I have not. Croissant is mostly healthy, fresh air. That's right. It's a nice low-calorie snack. Thin Mints, yo. I keep the Girl Scouts afloat. Good. Also, after getting COVID, my migraines are no longer well controlled. That sucks. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe I got a little sick, but it was COVID and it just did this. I'm so sick and tired of people accusing Tolkien of being racist for the wicked men being dark-skinned when he made it clear they weren't inherently evil. And in his appendices, they state they made peace with the protagonists. People are quick to make assumptions. Alan, is there something on your mind? Because it seems like you're having some feelings about stuff that is totally not related to anything that anybody's talking about. And so is there anything you seem like you have something on your mind? You want to share something. Captain Slamtastic left a PDF about long COVID recovery in Discord. Oh, great. Thank you, Captain Slamtastic. I was going to watch Shrek till we don't talking about. I'm sorry. Sorry to ruin your Shrek viewing pleasure. Let's see. Hang on. I think I just skipped. Okay, the 2-part Sputniks are store-bought. As for color, I have no idea what coworker throws at me. Seen a rainbow print of it. It's pretty easy to mix and match. I like the idea of the 3D printer for food. I think that's pretty cool. Per Espera at Astra. Aha, nice. I totally missed it. Let's see. Some ICBMs were spotted in a convoy in Moscow earlier this evening. That's really too bad. I'm trying to have the students, we kind of scrapped the lesson for yesterday, and we talked about some stuff going on. We watched some of the stuff going on, and so the students now, they have to try to predict what they think is going to happen, and they can do that as like a mini essay or a short story or a comic if they want to do drawing, so they can do it that way. We'll see what they say. Planning on getting my booster in 2 weeks. Would get earlier, but had many things I couldn't risk. Getting side effects and missing said things. Yeah, I had planned the booster during winter break. Yeah. You're losing immunity because the vaccines have negative efficacy after some time. This is because of antibody-dependent enhancement. I'm not. I can't say that that's true because we noticed this happened before the vaccines were developed. So the people that got COVID, like my parents, the people that got COVID before they had a vaccine developed at all. Those people, they were trying to use their blood in hopes of, trying to understand the antigens and can we make what can we do for the vaccine, like trying to develop a vaccine. After between 4 and 6 months, most people were completely out of, I guess, the antigens. Now, I'm not a biologist, but I'm just sharing, what happened. And so this had nothing to do with vaccines. This was just some viruses do that. Like with measles, it kind of resets your immune system. We just have some viruses that do that, and that's one of the reasons it's so. We have to be really careful that we don't compare this to stuff like, oh, it's just the cold or it's just a flu, because it does have its own differences. And those differences have to be understood, and we should take steps, to protect ourselves. I'm very glad that you guys have been okay so far, Pneuma, but do understand there's other people that they're at a higher risk. There are people that are at a higher risk. I have an autoimmune disorder, and if I get it, it's worse. A lot of us are not willing to risk it. There's a lot of people that are obese, especially in places like the U.S., Canada, Australia, the U.K., and Mexico. Those places, being obese is already puts a strain on the body, and with this extra, it does unfortunately put people at a higher risk of death. So, that's great, but we do want, I'm great and I'm happy for you. But please remember that wearing a mask and doing that is also protecting other people in the society that may not have your super great immune system. So, those people matter too. You know what I mean? Let's see. Contact tracing. Yeah, we stopped doing the contact tracing. Developing PTSD, is that for all the hospitalizations that are life-threatening, or is it worse with COVID because of all the media coverage? I just saw it for SARS, so SARS-1. The reason I was doing this for SARS-1 is because there's some people in my life that are really wary of certain sources, period. So certain sources. And they had asked that I only looked at a certain set of research, that they wouldn't be willing to accept anything from China or the US CDC or anything that was done after 2017, something like that. So I went and looked back at just SARS-1, and I met all those kinds of their requirements, their stipulations for that. And that's where I had found it out. So they were just testing SARS-1, which is very similar to SARS-2. That's why it's SARS-2. So they were testing that, and if I were to guess, like if I were to ask the researchers a question, I would ask if the PTSD thing was specific to the SARS-2 because of the fact that they are suffering. Do you know what I mean? So if you're in the hospital and you almost die, there are things that can happen where you might almost die on the operating table and you don't know. Something like that, not so likely to trigger PTSD, or create PTSD. But in the case of SARS, like severe hospitalized cases of SARS, you're basically drowning, like in the bed. And that's traumatic. That event is traumatic. So to be in that situation, that's what I would be asking the researchers is, hey, is this what's contributing to it? Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. My sister is actually concerned to hear I was exposing myself to my mom for that reason. Omicron wasn't here when I got it. Yeah, I would be definitely very careful. let's see, my mom and brother and most of my coworkers got Omicron. I didn't, as far as I know, never tested positive for it. I'm not vaccinated and the only one who wore a mask. The N95 masks are based. I like that word, by the way. I like that slang. One of the students, I did something, they said it was based. It was something like, oh, I said, yeah, so I want you guys to understand that, you know, when we hear about people with disabilities and stuff, we only think about certain types of disabilities, like someone's missing a foot or something like that. We don't think about invisible disabilities, and, you know, we don't think about chronic issues necessarily, you know, chronic pain and stuff. So this is why I'm open about it, and I talk about it, and I let you guys know if I have to leave the room to vomit and stuff, because I want you guys to know that it's okay, and you can still lead a life that is fulfilling, even if stuff like this happens to you. And one of the students was like, based. It was cute. Let's see, 84% of all Swedes have gotten 2 doses, 60% gotten 3 or more. That's progress. That's good. I live in Texas, so it's almost a different universe than most of the rest of the country or world. Here, after 2 months, everyone was already over it. No mask mandates or social distancing. I do wonder, what is the Texas COVID cases? So COVID cases in Texas, I wonder... Now I'm going to compare that to Korea COVID cases. So we've had fewer deaths. No. Deaths. How many people are in Texas? Let's look at our cases. Because I wonder the percentage. I don't know. My brain can't math right now. Somebody else can do it if they're curious enough. I wonder though if one of the factors there is the fact that Texas is kind of socially distanced in a way too. I mean, it's compared to Korea, you know what I mean? This is a very population dense area, so I think that's definitely a factor for sure. Let's see. My brother. Hang on, this jumped. My brother got immediately sick after taking a swab test. Sick how? And then immediately sick. So if you're saying your brother got COVID, he can't get immediately sick after taking the swab test, right? If he got COVID, let's say from the swab test for some reason, maybe in line, it would take 10 days. So if he took the swab test and then later that night he was having symptoms, he contracted the virus, excuse me, like 10 or 14 days earlier. I don't know what's been going on with my voice. It's quite frustrating. This just keeps happening, and maybe this is just my voice now. Let's see. Unrelated, my daughter had it, then me, my nephew, my niece, my mom. It's a local family. Gotcha. Sounds like the weekends are causing it. The weekend test getting processed. So that's for the answering the question. Yeah, so basically when, 10 or 14 days prior to a time like, Tuesday, that's the weekend. So people are doing stuff on the weekend, drinking, for example, that might have them not following the good mask protocol. So they are able to pass it to each other. But then unless you're going to be having severe symptoms, you're not going to really go to the hospital. So you're going to see if you can ride it out over the weekend when the clinics are closed. The clinics are closed usually after 1 p.m. on Saturdays, and then they're not open on Sundays in Korea, typically. So you're not going. You wake up on Monday, you feel worse. So you tell your boss, hey, I'm having these symptoms. I've had them over the weekend. They didn't get better today. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to go get tested. So then you probably go back to sleep, right? And by the time you get out there and stand in line for 3 hours and so on and so forth, you're probably getting swabbed around 4 p.m. So by the time that the results come back, those results are going to be for Tuesday. So that's one of the reasons. So we're kind of gives you an idea, though, all the people that are getting tested on Saturday and Sunday and positive on Saturday and Sunday, they might be more severe cases, When my nephew got Omicron, the school sent him here. I had to cook and bring foods to his door for 5 days. He suffered, but he ate really good. Well, that's good. That's good. I thank you, non-applicable. Is it applicable or applicable? I ain't the English teacher. Shrek is an ogre lord who believes in onions and layering. So that's all right. I appreciate the time that you spend with us greatly. Thank you. That's the reason that I'm here, because I'd rather put my head on some ice. Can the students make their own doomsday clock? Only if they check with me first to make sure that they're following the reasons that I want them to look at this. Like the right research, yeah. Short answer, yes. It bothers me when people make assumptions about anything without doing their research, be it Tolkien's work, public figure, and ideology. That's essentially my main point. Gotcha. I will say that I would lead with the main point. Yeah. Because typically, unfortunately, when people start talking about stuff like race issues, that can make people feel like this, like the person that's talking about race issues is trying to like bait others into like a troll or an argument or something like that. So I would just lean with that, you know, that it sucks to make assumptions without doing the research. Yeah. I mean, we all do it, you know. I try not to, which is why I keep talking about all these stupid studies I'm reading. But, you know, I still do it too. One of my favorite fanfics has Leman Russ, Primarch of the Space Wolves from Warhammer 40k, visit Earth in the middle of the Battle of Helm's Deep. He slaughters the entire Orcish army. Now that's something to share with people on the Discord chain. All this talk of Shrek is making me think of Shrek is love, Shrek is life. You lose the antibodies, but the immune system can recall them faster upon reinfection. This does happen with the vaccination. There's a study that shows negative efficacy. Can you give us a study name? Because you can't put links in any live chats, but if you give us a study name, then we can check it out together. It'd be pretty cool. Let's see. Some people are going through cancer treatment or have things like lupus or just old. Right. Vaccines, just friend or foe identifier, but the bodies sometimes have crap defense. Yeah. Hello, Michael. Glad you can catch my stream live. Hope you've been well, at least well as can be. I have been in good spirits, but bad body. If that makes sense. The Holy Green one was on a list of YouTube banned words. How could it be on a... I have to look this up. I'm sorry. I'm going to look this up. Shrek banned words YouTube. Because this is too much. Why? Oh, it's Shrek is demonetized. Well, we don't monetize. Yeah. So they also demonetized LGBT stuff. So if people are like coming out, then they say that they have like a video where they're coming out, but because people will say, you know, they flag gay or lesbian as demonetized, then it's like they can't talk about it. So yeah, I would say they do need to do a little bit of a better job. But for us, you know, it's a moot point. We don't do that. So Pavema, that you did put something here that is held for review. I have a question, because I always had this question for people that were claiming about this effort of mass depopulation, that the governments are in on it and stuff. To what end? That's always my question, like, to what end? So, what would be the purpose of a mass depopulation? I never understood that. If the idea is that they want us to be mindless wage slaves that are working to make their lives more comfortable, that is easier to achieve with a larger population. You know what I mean? And then also, how are they doing a depopulation with vaccines? Like, how is that achieved? Because that's definitely not how I would do it. And I mean, I don't know if you know, I was in the Marines. I worked in intelligence for a while, and it was nothing really high, but at the same time, it does give you an idea of some of the stuff that, you know, some governments are doing. And like the idea that the governments are in on it, like there's a lot of stuff that it's so, even though it's not that big of a secret, it's still secret. So most people can't even look at it. Like if my like the base commander shows up and says, "Hey Marine, I need to get into the vault," I have to look at their name and their rank, check the list, and there's literally 5 people on the list. 3 of them were the people that worked in that office. One of them was me. There's like 5 people on the list that are allowed into this like safe, which is where we keep all this stuff. And so even the base commander wouldn't even be allowed in there. I just have to politely decline, tactfully decline. And if their name is on there, I have to say, well, what's their purpose? You know, I need to know that you have a need to know. So this idea, like, and that's like a small thing. So this idea that like governments are in on this really big, super juicy secret. I don't see like how it works. I just don't. But that's, like I said, that's from my perspective, because I've been on the inside. Like the governments are, I think one of the benefits that the governments have is how tricky some people believe they are. That's what I think one of the benefits are from the government. Because when we see the government, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry, guys. Try to do it away from the mic. When we see governments like doing something or not doing something, not cleaning stuff up, it's like a really obvious thing. You know what I mean? People are severely harmed with things like how the government ignores people that live downwind from pig farms, for example. So that kind of stuff is really obvious. Like the cancer rates for people that live downwind from a pig farm are so high, and that's just not the case with the vaccine stuff. You know, if I were doing something with, like, if it was up to me, I wouldn't use a virus. I think a virus is a really lousy way to do it, because if you get something super deadly like Ebola, for example, then you end up with, it's hard to transmit because a lot of people die from it. So you could get something less deadly and it's easy to transmit, but then it's less deadly. So if your goal was to depopulate, you know, I would use a flesh-eating bacteria personally. If that was my goal, to like damage an economy, especially, I would use flesh-eating bacteria because, excuse me, yes, you can take antibiotics, but you have to catch them in time, right? And if they're not available to you for whatever reason, your only other option is to cut that part of your body off. So you've like physically disabled your working population. So that's what I would do. I would do something like that. I would do lead poisoning, but not a virus. It's too variable, and it's just too hard to control. It's kind of a bad way to do it. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't do it with a virus. Definitely there's no evidence of it being that way with the vaccine, like affecting people in any way like that, like with the pig farms, for example. So that's, I just, you know, what's the evidence for it? And then again, to what end? How reasonable is it? Now, keep in mind, you know, there are some conspiracies that absolutely are true, that totally happen, absolutely. And I teach my students about them, stuff like MK Ultra, the CIA cocaine Contra scandal. You know, we talk about that stuff. We talk about things that are interesting. Maybe they happened, probably didn't, but they're kind of interesting to know about anyway. So like the Philadelphia experiment we'll talk about. So I'm not like saying that the idea of a conspiracy is ridiculous. It's not. It happens. Unfortunately, it happens. But in this case, I just don't. I don't see it as making much sense for why they would do it, and then how it's done, I just don't see it being very effective. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Zod is here. Hello. Most conspiracy theorists only seem to care whether the conspiracy theory is crazy enough for them to be interested in. Maybe. I will say I do watch a lot of stuff about aliens because I think aliens are really cool. That's for sure. Don't forget the white replacement conspiracy. I have heard of that as a person who's mixed, can't relate. So, yeah. Let's see. Oh, it looks like it jumped down a lot. Let's see. 10 days, that's not what they're saying here. A lot of people show symptoms in 2 to 5 days. Okay. But I'm talking about like the same day kind of thing. That's what it seemed like. Children are getting severe developmental issues from masking because they need to interact with facial expressions, showing that kids have lost 22 IQ points. So I'm not sure about that study. Somebody had mentioned it. A 22-point drop would be 78. So IQ tests, this idea of monitoring IQ in the form of like a single number, that's something that's not as, it's not given a lot of weight, really. So in psychology, there's one thing that's you might be interested in, or just anybody, is Gardner's multiple intelligences, and so there's these different ways to assess intelligence. And so maybe they might have trouble with stuff like emotional intelligence, but I'm trying to think of like how often, what age the kids are, and then how often they're interacting with a primary caregiver that is masked constantly. So that would be a question that I have. I would assume that young kids are still being taught things. They're still watching stuff on TV, so they're still able to get that kind of social, quote-unquote, interaction by seeing other facial expressions on television. They're at home. People don't mask at home. I don't mask at home. So if I had a kid, we would not have lost that. So I don't see, I would have to definitely read the study. So if you could tell us the name of the study. Hello, Test. We can look it up. But yeah, that's kind of a weird way to judge a child. And then I wouldn't even think to test it necessarily. I would think to test about students learning in relation to being online. And so are they able to divide their attention, or is that something they're not able to do? I would be interested in studying that later on. Maybe that's what I can do for my doctorate thing. But yeah, just the idea like babies aren't learning facial expressions, so then they've become lower in intelligence on all levels. That doesn't pan out with like childhood development psychology. Yeah. Let's see. Anyone dumb enough to believe you I don't want to be friends with them? I don't know why it blocked it. I think they blocked it because you used the word racism, so it's unblocked now. Yeah, Agenda 21. I think we have to read that. That was something that, but it was a voluntary thing that I didn't see anything with depopulation. I don't think you're saying that it is, but when I read the excerpt of it, I just didn't see that, or the abstract of it. Study finds children born during lockdown. All right, let's see. Well, I couldn't find specifically that, but let's look at it together. Let's check it out. Because obviously this is something I'm interested in as a teacher. All right, so researchers blame lack of stimulation as parents balance childcare with working from home. Now, this one I have heard. So this has nothing to do with masks. Yeah, this is not about masks. This is about children not receiving adequate attention from their parents. This one I have read. So that's all this is about. If you guys want to read it, I'll put a link here. But that's what this one's about. That it has nothing to do with masking, though. So, yeah. YouTube has recommended some Mardi Gras live streams. So interesting. I saw the worst mask meme ever a few days ago in a Discord server. It was truly fractally wrong. I was kicked from the server for asking about it. I share it with you. Thank you. The WISC is very low. They still classify these things. No. So from what we're seeing, I don't think it's even talking about them. Those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds fared worse in the tests. The biggest reason behind the falling scores, the lack of stimulation and interaction at home. Parents are stressed and frazzled. That interaction the child would normally get has decreased substantially. So that, again, is something that I've read before, but I'm just reading it so you guys kind of know more about what it's saying if you don't want to read the link. But that's what it's about. It's about... because parents interacting with their children absolutely has effects on how a child develops, 100%. And we can see that in cases of very hands-off, overcrowded orphanages, for example. We see that. We also see it in the rare cases of quote-unquote feral children who were not properly raised by their parents. And so we definitely see that. Whether these lower cognitive scores have long-term impact is unclear. So, yeah, but it's not... and the analysis has not been peer-reviewed. So that's another thing. So if we want to look at the analysis, I can't stare too long at a screen with such small text for right now, but that's what it is. Yeah. So... so this says the vaccines are just part of the depopulation. Soon we'll have nuclear war, which will kill a huge portion of the world population. So again, to what end? That's my question. To what end? Like, if I was in charge of something, why would I want to not only wipe out a lot of my citizenry, but also render land unusable? You know what I mean? Why? What? Like, to what purpose would what would I gain as a government leader, as a CEO? Like, what would I gain from that? Let's see. Have you seen Inside Job on Netflix? I have not. I started watching it, and then it's just been harder to focus on a lot of stuff. So mostly when I'm home, I will put something on in the background that I've watched in the past, so I don't feel so. And then I will play Pokemon Go on Spoofer. So let's see. Bless you in an atheist sort of way. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Gesundheit. There we go. That's an atheist blessing. Gesundheit. Let's see. Crawling isn't even a milestone anymore. That one is interesting. I haven't heard that. My stuff with development is like related with psychology, so it could be. But I would be interested in seeing that crawling isn't a milestone. A lot of rich and influential people have also died from COVID. Yeah, so what would be the point? And then they didn't save Betty White, so what's the point of anything? Let's see. Oh, Inside Job. I thought you meant like a documentary. The comedy, like the animated thing. Yes, I have seen episodes of that. I think they did a pretty fun job with it. Because there's stuff that you do find. It's like, oh, that is true, you know. I saw a video where a Vice reporter tracked down a guy in Russian special forces using social media and showed the Russian military was lying about being in Donbass. Yeah, I will say, and I told the students this, Putin's very smart in how he's doing this. You know, he's attacking at night when most people are out and about, so he can still claim it's just he's not trying to target civilians. They used news outlets to say that, hey, we're gonna land here and come in here and invade on this point. So they're kind of separating the military. They're hurting the civilians, like hurting, H-E-R-D, hurting the civilians. And then they also did some targeting of like social media accounts of Ukrainian leaders to get their stuff automatically flagged. If you report someone enough times, it just gets automatically frozen or suspended, and they don't really check. They don't verify it, so you have to get it manually checked to be unsuspended or reinstated, however they phrase it. There was something else that he did that was really good too. His phrasing in his speech, we watched that in the psychology class that I have with the students, just to say, all right, you're an alien, you don't know anything about anything on Earth. What do you feel is the message here? And so it's a very interesting kind of message, yeah. Let's see. IQs rubbed me the wrong way. Even when I was severely brain injured, my IQ was 127. I got denied despite being non-functional. That's too bad. And again, it's the multiple intelligences stuff is a lot better. Let's see. All right, so now we're kind of back. I took off my tinfoil hat years ago. Unfortunately, today's horses are misleading. Let's see. Hang on, every time I scroll down, this keeps jumping. Let's see. Probably more money as a cult leader, but spreading conspiracy theories for clicks would be less effort and likely to get police attention. Oof, we don't want police attention, right? I'm referring specifically to current conservative QAnon conspiracy theories. They've taken a malicious turn and have developed a flagrant lack of regard for plausibility. I think the reason I think that is happening is because the groups of people that typically follow the conservative or QAnon theories, the conspiracy theories, are evangelical. And I think all of us know how there's this idea among many evangelicals that everything is either of God or of Satan. If you're not with us, you're against us, kind of thing. And so the idea that there's like stuff hidden behind the scenes, and that these people that aren't directly implementing basically Christian Taliban, you know what I mean, that they're not voting in or legislating biblical beliefs, those people must be against us, therefore they're Satan, therefore they're doing all this stuff. So there's a lot of willingness to accept these ideas that if you didn't already believe in Satan having an active and mystical, magical role in the lives of humans and the affairs of our politics and such, if you already don't believe that, it's really hard to get into the QAnon stuff. But I think if you already believe that, the QAnon stuff makes sense, I think. Okay, Pnevma, you said that you have to go, but just so we know, there are people dying right now. Let's not just like throw it as a quick joke. I might get bombed by Russia tomorrow, so I need some sleep. Good luck with the apocalypse. That's really, for somebody who's claims to be so upset with the powers that be for depopulating and not valuing human life, that's really a comment that shows that you don't value human life. You know what I mean? It's not the right joke that you want to be making, Let's see. Be a prophet for fun and profit. Yes, that's true. I can join with the apostate prophet. Let's see. His friend Eddie Bravo is a flat earther. He's friends with Alex Jones. That tells me everything I need to know. Well, wait, Alan, weren't you just saying that you don't like it when people make assumptions without research? Have you done research on Eddie Bravo and Alex Jones? My interest in those people is, how did they get from point A to point X? You know what I mean? We can see how they go from point A to point B to point C. Like, what's the evolution of their thought process? How do they turn into a different kind, at the end? So that's the part that I'm always interested in, is how much of this is plausible enough to interest people. And once those people are interested in there and we slowly, put more and more pieces to it, you end up, on a different island, and so to speak. There was no dramatic reduction in social skills in the 1920s due to masks being worn. Yeah, plus it wasn't even due to masks. But that's a good point. Aren't IQ studies really poor when gauging intelligence, like they are born out of racist pseudoscience? I don't know if I would say racist pseudoscience. I will say it's used by racists who don't realize it's biased. And by that I mean there's different types of skills that you need in different settings. And so if you have setting A, and setting A needs a certain set of skills, skill set A, and you go to setting B needs skill set B. So you cannot look at skill set A and a test made for skill set A and then give it to people who have skill set B, watch them fail the test and say, wow, these people are really stupid. You know what I mean? What's the phrase? Like, a fish, you can't judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree, something like that. So that's why the multiple intelligences thing is really interesting. Maybe, is anybody interested in a video on it? Because, this is like stuff you guys could look up. Like, would you guys rather have a video on it? I don't mind. It's just, I don't want to make a video for something that people could be like, duh, we all knew about this and we could all look it up ourselves or something, Let's see. I don't get my health information from a comedian or political ideas or anything. I think it's interesting to hear what people have to say on those shows. Yeah. Where can we get real feral children? From tragedies. That's where you get them, from tragedies. So we don't want them. That's sad, yeah. Intergenerational trauma from Canadian residential schools. Yeah, absolutely. My last IQ test was over 140. You know what it means? I know how to take an IQ test. Bingo. What's the best Pokemon Go spoofer these days? PG Sharp. Yeah, they're really good even without what's it called? Paying. I pay. It's cheap enough. But let's see. Trace Dominguez has some really good TY series on parenting. Sorry, my eyes are not working. Looks at it from parenting and the importance of interaction with kids. Looks at different angles, LGBTQ, misogyny, etc. Okay. Are my earrings caffeine molecules? No, they are honeycombs. Crawling is no longer a developmental milestone because not all able-bodied children do it. I skipped it, as do a lot of kids. Okay, so maybe that makes sense then. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? That was such a great movie. It was depressing, but it was like such an interesting movie. No, I'm gonna say it. USA Up All Night with Rhonda Shear. She was on a home shopping channel selling lingerie a few days ago. Oh, goodness. I didn't walk until 15 months. My first steps were walking across the room. My sister was walking at 7. Pastor Locke, right name, accusing congregates of being witches, saying people with autism are possessed. Book burning. Yeah, that. And again, it's, and I had to talk to my students yesterday about death. And it had to do with the death of my sibling. And I told the students, that it's important to have these talks because, all of us are going to die. We're all going to know people that die. And it's difficult to deal with it. We shouldn't make it seem like this hidden, shameful thing. And one of the students had mentioned that their friend mother had passed from a heart attack, and nobody had expected it because she was relatively young and healthy. And I said, that's the thing is when we see a tragedy like this, when we see victims, we see deaths, we always want to know like what could have done that, so that way we can avoid the thing and then everything's okay. And it's hard when we just have to accept that sometimes things happen and it's nobody's fault and there's no way to prevent it. And it could be any of you. And so I told them, if I'm going to give you a piece of advice, it is, if you have an argument with somebody, before you stop talking to them for a period of whatever time, let them know you're mad, but you love them. Because if you have an argument with somebody you care about and you go to bed angry and you wake up and you don't say anything to each other because you're still mad, and then one of you dies that day, that's all you're going to remember. But at least if you were able to say, I'm still mad at you and I'm probably not going to talk to you for a few days, but I love you, but I'm mad at you right now, but I love you, then at least you have that, So that was something. So this idea with witches and autism and stuff being possessed, I mean, autism, this is, depending on how far along on the spectrum you are, this is very difficult to deal with. So to be able to say we have the cure and those people are just not doing it hard enough, those people are wallowing in their sin and stuff. It does help people feel like they can have some control over the uncontrollable, Thank you, Shane. I'll check it out. I usually try to do that with flat earthers, watch how their fallacies develop and evolve. Yeah, I want to know about that. I watched how they talk, the people they associate with, the crowd that watches them, and looked at their talking points. They're idiots. I don't like to label people as idiots. So I don't know if I would characterize them as idiots. Personally, I would say they've found a way to make money, and whether they believe the things they're saying is a different story. So if they believe the things they're saying, perhaps they've, what makes them believe that? I don't think it's a lack of available information. I'm sure people have given that information to them a lot of times. So what makes it where somebody, for example, is a flat earther, despite the fact that people try to explain to them why it's wrong, what keeps them in that mindset? And there's a lot of reasons that we should understand that, because any of us is susceptible to that. And I think it's really important to know. Let's see. Now I feel bad. I don't know when I walked. I know I was swimming before I could walk, so I don't know. What happened to letting people make judgment for themselves? Only letting one opinion in the open seems pretty damn 1984 to me. What was that in reference to? I hate flat earthers more than anti-vaxxers, but anti-vaxxers are objectively more dangerous for obvious reasons. Well, I think there is a lot of overlap. And so again, that's the importance of, why do you trust some types of science like a car that you drive, but you don't trust other types of science, Let's see. Yeah, Pastor Greg Locke is the name of the guy I mentioned, yeah. I've seen him on Telltale's channel. The problem is not that opinions are questioned, the problem begins when people try to shut other people up. Yeah, I agree. Let's see. My mom ended up knock-kneed. I ended up bow-legged. That's important. I'm on my way to bed, but I caught your comment. I live right next to Russia. It wasn't a joke. I legitimately believe we're in the apocalypse. I'm terrified. Then what do you think the apocalypse looks like? And I can understand that you're terrified. I would be terrified too. Do you have a safe place to go that's away from that area? But as far as, so maybe that was a snarky, not snarky maybe, just kind of sarcastic to try to deal with the fact that it's scary, and it is scary. So I shouldn't have jumped to the conclusion that, that you were just making that joke. But do you have a place that you can be? Because that's what I'm more concerned with is your safety. You know what I mean? What plans are in place? I haven't checked anything today, because I know if I check it, I won't be able to take my mind off of it. But I I know that from yesterday when I was reading stuff, there was NATO that had lined up around the borders near Ukraine, which of course is not going to help Ukraine. So yeah. But we of course, you know, want you to be safe. I don't know if there's any people that live near Eastern Europe that are able to provide just some other information, like if there's places like in France or something that are accepting people into shelters or something like that. That can be really helpful to Pneuma. I think that was in reference to Rogan. I like Rogan, like multi-millions of other people judging his whole thing because he lets fringe opinions in the door to talk. I got you. I think it's... I mean, granted, I don't know everything about him. I'm not like a frequent watcher of his stuff or listener. But there's something to be said about allowing a big platform to have other ideas. I think those other ideas are, you know, can be interesting. But I guess what the other people are worried about is being held responsible. Yeah. If the United States fights the GRU, they will lose. Maybe the GRU. I was thinking GRU like grew from that Minions thing, and I was like, GRU. I am in too much pain. Yeah. But it's not something that's going to be easy. But I also don't think the United States will fight. I don't think there's a reason for them to. Do you know what I mean? It's the same when Japan invaded and took over the Korean Peninsula. Who helped out? Because who benefited? Nobody. It was like, oh, that's sad. And then everyone just kind of went back to doing their thing. My niece didn't speak until she was 3. She started speaking in complete sentences. Maybe that's why they changed some of that stuff, because maybe it scared some parents, you know. The issue with Rogan is that the larger platform, the more the responsibility. Yeah, thanks, Uncle Ben, exactly. He's not sufficiently responsible with the scope of his platform. That, yeah, and that might be it, you know. I mean, I don't have a big platform, and even I worry about accidentally being associated with misinformation. Because I don't want to promote misinformation, but I also don't want to just kick people out. You know, that's why I was allowing that person to share their ideas. You know, it was getting flagged in the live chat by YouTube automatically, but that just kind of gave it more of a highlight for me, so I made sure to see it, which is good. You know, so we can have a discussion about it. You know what I mean? How far do you personally think this conflict will go? I think he will take Ukraine. That's what I think. That's my thing. That's my guess. My guess is this is going to be another Korea, another Hungary, another Poland, and that he's just going to take it. Because I feel like if NATO steps in, that Putin's going to see this as an open invitation to attack other people, like in NATO. I don't think the sanctions are going to work. I mean, Russia's its own planet. The square kilometers of Russia are larger than the square kilometers of the surface of Pluto. Like, they don't need fresh water from anywhere. They don't need fossil fuels. They don't need wood. They don't need farmland. You know, they're not needing any of this stuff. They've got uranium, they got diamonds, they got amber, they've got anything they can want to sell. They've got furs, they've got all kinds of stuff. So this idea of putting like really strict sanctions, you know, this is not North Korea, you know. So I don't think it's going to limit their activity at all. I'm just going to take my meds for a second. I have them here because I anticipated this. I need to get these too. Let's see. President Putin is unhinged enough to invade the Baltic states, NATO will be suddenly involved. I think they are ready for it. I think Putin's ready to retaliate if anybody tries to get in the way, but I don't think he's going to aggress beyond that. I think if he does take Ukraine, I think he might be interested in also going into like Kazakhstan and Tajikistan and all of that. So that could happen. And I think that it would happen and people would still let it happen. That's what I think. Yeah. I don't think that's as far. I don't think he's going to go further into Europe. I think he might go into Asia. Just to do it, just to say, hey, I made this, reunited the empire. He's a guy that just really does what he wants. He's got his own ideas and he makes them happen, Unlike former President Trump, where he had his own ideas and he wanted to make them happen, he had no experience in politics and stuff. He didn't know how the military runs or anything like that. So I feel like he had his own feelings, but he didn't know how to enact them. Whereas Putin, I mean, he's been part of the government for how long? He was in the KGB, in intelligence. So this guy knows what he's doing. I don't think he's stupid. He's wild by most definitions, but I don't think he's stupid. I don't think he's going to go get himself into an internationally large, widely participated in war. I don't think that's going to happen. People saying World War III, I just don't see it. I don't see the reason for it. Yeah. Because war is expensive too, I just realized you are a Ricola drop, lemon pin, and honey earring, but I still coughed. I didn't even think about it. I was thinking more like summer or like spring. So this like lemon and honey, that's cute. It's an accident. I also don't like lemon and honey. I don't like lemon in most of my tea unless it's lemon tea by itself. That's it. I like lemon verbena or something, or lemon myrtle. I don't care for it like with lemon and ginger. I just don't. I think they're two separate tastes. Let's see. I'm trying to keep up with reading, but the screens get really fuzzy. He wants to rebuild the USSR. Wake up people. Appeasement doesn't work. I think the difference between appeasement here and appeasement before was the idea of the Lebensraum, which is the living space for the German people. Russia's got enough living space, you know what I mean? They got enough resources. They've got plenty, they've got contacts with other countries, they've got rivers, they've got fresh water, and they've got everything they need. So I don't think they're gonna do that. But I mean, I could be wrong, of course. That's just where I'm thinking. I think there's going to be more of a Hungary or Poland by itself, or, Korea situation where they just take it, nobody else interferes. But then I think they're going to, if they're going to spread out, I would say Central Asia. At the same time, the Ukraine just might be one of those things where it's, like a thorn in Putin's side. And he just wants it to have it for his own personal reasons, and then after it's taken, then the end. That's what I wonder. Seeing as the U.S. president is commander-in-chief, do we think he should have served in the military or had a certain education? I do. Yeah, I definitely think that having, military service, I think, is a good start. A very Starship Trooper rules about that. Yeah. I saw brass knuckle earrings. Everyone sees what they want to see, I think. There was the caffeine earrings, the brass knuckle. When I was wearing it yesterday, I was wearing it with a bee, like a bee brooch. So that made more sense, maybe. Um, let's see. Yeah, I think I do need to go pretty soon because I'm overheating and going blind. So those countries are NATO. We'd be required to put boots on the ground. We should have granted Ukraine NATO rights. Yeah, I think if it was NATO, I don't think this would have happened because then you wouldn't be fighting with Ukraine. You'd be fighting with everyone else. I think you are talking about the other countries, right? Those other countries are NATO because what am I? Yeah, I didn't think so. I'm looking at a NATO map, and I wasn't sure if you were talking about other countries in Europe or if you were talking about Central Asia. And I'm like, that wouldn't make sense. It's Central Asia. It's not even touching the Atlantic. Yeah, but that I think they would go in there. I don't think there would be any love lost. You know, there's not a lot of people that really, not a lot of powerful countries that really give a second thought to places like Turkmenistan, to be quite honest. And that's why I think they just wouldn't care. The only people that might care might be Iran. So they might just go with Kazakhstan. They might want to buffer between the Russian Empire. But that's what I'm thinking. I think China will make... Oh, Poland is new. Yeah, Poland is new. I'm talking about Poland in... the Poland comment was for 1939 Germany. Yeah. How nobody helped out Poland at that time. I have hope that the Ukraine will fend off Putin. I mean, I hope so. But Russia is an army. You know, that's one of the things that I tell the students when we have to talk about history stuff, is that Russia is like if the Russian army doesn't kill you, the Russian winter will, and the Russian army will kill you. You know, they are relentless, I think, is how you would do it. You know, if you wanna characterize it in one word, I would say relentless. They just, how do you deal with wave after wave after wave, right? And I think the big difference between Afghanistan, because I showed you know what, we can just look at a map. I love Google Maps. I really do. I use it all the time at school. No, we don't want this. Okay, let me share this real quick. Oh, cool. All right. So if we look at Afghanistan with the layers here, we are mountains. We are lots and lots and lots and lots of mountains. And that was great for the Mujahideen. This was a really hard area to get tanks into. And then from above, it's pretty difficult when people are hiding out in caves and stuff. It's hard to see where people are building up like they're fortifying areas, because they can fortify it within the cave, you know, so you can't see where people are building up supplies and stuff. Compared to Ukraine, which, yeah, we got a little mountains, a little bit, but mostly it's the Great Plains of the Ukraine, you know what I mean? So this is not, like, geography really matters for war. It matters so much. I mean, like, the Mongolians on horseback didn't get into Southeast Asia because it was so mountainous and covered in jungles, which is exactly the opposite of a grassland. They just went into areas they could take over. When they went into Korea, for example, they had the Koreans build boats because they didn't have a lot of, you know, this long seafaring history. And twice they were taken out by bad weather. And so that's where that kamikaze comes from, the divine wind, because it protected them from the Mongolian via Korea invasion. So, I mean, it's so weird just how much geography has to do with with war, because when we talk about war, we usually talk about military size, military funding, the specific stuff in the military. And a lot of it is just the geography, So it's fun being a geography teacher and a history teacher, especially having a military background. It does make stuff make a lot more sense, I think. Yeah. Like, because there's so many wars you have to learn about in history, right? And when I was in history class, it was like, okay, this war, well, why? Well, how come? Well, why would they just give up if they're in India, for Alexander the Great's invasion? That's a lot of stuff they could have taken. Why did they just give up? But having been in the military, it's like, oh, yeah. How could knights just hurt each other? Oh, I'm in a fight club. So it makes a lot more sense, for sure. Let's see. Finland is thinking about joining NATO. Russia's not happy about that. Oh, Russia. Yeah, Russia and Finland don't have a good... It's like Japan and Korea. One thing nobody talks about is how Belarus is 100% helping Russia. Well, then it will delight you to learn that I absolutely was talking about that in all of my classes. So that way even just letting them go across the border, that's a huge help. So if you think about Russia's border with Ukraine, Belarus's border with Ukraine, Crimea, and then all of the ports, if you got any Marines doing amphibious assault, that's the majority of the Ukrainian border right there. I've heard some people say how powerful Russia's army is, but I've heard them say they've inherited their equipment from the USSR, haven't really advanced them since then. I really hope not. I know that, North Korea has, and I joke with the students that the Assyrians had newer weapons than the Ukraine or the North Koreans. Their stuff is ancient. It's just ancient. Let's see. I think people underestimate Russia and China. I think so. I do. I think so. I think Russia's the largest country. Yeah, no, they are. I wish there was a way to host these on Zoom, because as clunky as Zoom can be, I like the annotation feature. Because I show the students exactly how big Russia is. Russia's gigantic. Like I mentioned, the square kilometers of Russia is more than the surface area of Pluto. It's so big. It's so big. 80% of Russia is frozen hell. Sometimes, we still the part that's a frozen hell though, maybe for humans that live there, but not for stuff like certain types of trees, so acquiring wood from the taiga forest, being able to get through there to access fishing, petroleum deposits that are there, and just wildlife, if you want to have reindeer farms and to have a lot of reindeer meat, for example. Yeah, it's great, so it's a frozen hell for us, maybe, but there's resources there, lots of resources to still use, for sure. And not 80%. Let me see if I can show you what we've got, because some of it is super frozen, but even the parts, I don't know how easily we can show, but if you look at it on the map, you can see what parts are really green still. Yeah. I don't know, maybe 30%, maybe. Your mom says that, it's okay. You can be short, you can be tall. They have made many advancements in rocketry. I believe it. I definitely believe it. The USSR was so big on, culturally, on the STEM fields that post-USSR was as well. Also, interesting cults popped up in Russia, so that's weird. I thought that was cool. With global warming, more and more of Siberia will open up colonization and exploitation. I hope that we get more with, like, hunting for fossils. That's what I hope. Oil and diamonds. Yeah, Germany needs to cancel dependencies on Russia for oil and gas, and we can talk about natural or energy production in our next lesson. I mean, our next live stream. Because we had an issue with that, and I was really mad, and we can talk about it next time, because I'm running out of gas. so I think I should probably yeah. So US MSM has lost a lot of its journalistic integrity. The views are highly polarized. A friend of mine, I gotta ask her what it was. It was something, she looks at a site where they get a bunch of different views about a topic from different news sources. I forget what it was called. Oh man. I don't know how many you get migraines, but you guys know if you ever take a Triptan and then it feels like your nerves are freezing and drowning and they're on fire at the same time, I'm getting that feeling like I'm having water shoved up my nose. It's just such a weird feeling. See you later. I'm sorry, Nick. You are always late. I'm sorry. What's your profile picture? You weren't kidding when you said the Russian winters could kill you. Yeah, winters get down to minus 44 C. Yeah. No, that... So Napoleon, he goes in, right? And one of the strategies was to kind of travel a little bit lighter and then take stuff from towns. So you would use the towns for housing and food and medical stuff. You know, you got your own food and things, but you're supposed to like resupply from these towns. And so one of the tactics was just to set the whole town like on fire and then to leave. So they're just burning their houses. Like, who expects this? And 97% of Napoleon's army died. 97%. You know, what the hell? It's just like frozen. And the Germans had that issue as well. One of the fun stories, interesting stories, is they were freezing to death, and they were wrapped in so many layers, and when another of their fellow soldiers would die, they would take their clothes, and they were freezing. And Russia had just finally got their reinforcements down from Siberia, and they showed up to fight, and they were just wearing like sweaters. And it was just so demoralizing for the Germans, yeah. My PFP is mesmerizing, that's what it is. It looks like those night walkers or whatever those are called. Hitler invaded Russia during one of their worst recorded winters. Hand of God? No, definitely not. It was hand of dumb. You don't want to fight a two front war. Like, they learned that in World War One. You know, see, again, if you want to control an army, you should go into history. You should be a history person first. Actually, in the Marines, we also had to learn Marine Corps history. That was one of the things we had to learn. At least Alexander Empire crumbled after he died. That's true. That's true. Napoleon is vastly overrated as a military leader. Yes, he was kind of a baller. Like, people really liked him at the time. Freezing to death sounds like a horrible death. It's slow. It is. I feel like at some level you would just stop caring. You would stop feeling stuff. But for me, I'm feeling lots of stuff. And I think if I talk for another minute, I will vomit on my desk. So I'm going to let you guys go because the nausea I've been keeping down is not being kept down. And I will see you later. Thank you guys for joining me. It's been an interesting discussion. I hope it was interesting for you guys too. Bye guys. See you later. Oh, and for Patreon, remember to check the times. Okay. Summer, I'm looking directly at you. Set an alarm. Bye guys.